Сайн байцгаана уу хүн төлөвчтэй. Өнөөдөр манай DeFacto нэвтрүүлгээр Монгол улсын хүний хөгжлийн тухай энэ тухай тодорхой тайлан гаргадаг жил болгон нүүбийн хөгжлийн хөтөлбөр гэж байдаг UNDP. Энэ байгууллага манай 60-аад оноос хойш ажилласан анхны нүүбийн байгууллага. Тэгэхээр энэ монголчуудын хүний хөгжлийн индекс хаана байгаа юм? Тэг өнөөдөр ямар хөө хэмжээний өөрчлөлтүүд болж байгаа? Энэ тухай ярихаар энэ нүүбийн хөгжлийн хөтөлбөрийн суурин төлөөлөгч Matilda Dimovskaтай ярих гэж байна.
Matilda Dimovska Монгол дахь нэгдсэн үндэсний байгууллагын хөгжлийн хөтөлбөрийн суурин төлөөлөгч. Скопи хот дахь гигэн Сирил ба Мефодиус их сургуулийг эдийн засгийн бодлого, хөгжлийн чиглэлийн магистр зэрэгтэй төгссөн. Тэрээр бүгд найрамдах Умард Македон улсын иргэн бөгөөд Америкийн нэгдсэн улсын Нью-Йорк хот болон бүгд найрамдах Македон дахь нэгдсэн үндэсний байгууллагын хөгжлийн хөтөлбөрүүд мөн Вен дахь UNIDO-гийн хөрөнгө оруулалтыг дэмжих албаны төлөөлөгч. Македоны өмч хөгжлийн агентлаг болон Скопи хотод хувийн хөвшилт тус ажиллаж байсан. Нэгдсэн үндэсний байгууллагын хөгжлийн хөтөлбөрийн Турк дахь орлогч суурин төлөөлөгч. Нэгдсэн үндэсний байгууллагын хөгжлийн хөтөлбөрийн Молдав дахь орлогч суурин төлөөлөгч болон Нэгдсэн үндэсний байгууллагын хөгжлийн хөтөлбөрийн Гүрж дахь шадар суурин төлөөлөгчөөр ажиллаж байсан. 2023 оны 9 сараас Монгол дахь Нэгдсэн үндэсний байгууллагын хөгжлийн хөтөлбөрийн суурин төлөөлөгчөөр томилогдсон ажиллаж байна.
Хам богдуул хатан туулгуулын хөвөндөх цэнгэг агаартай бүсэд байрлалтай. Хүүхдэд ээлтэй хотхны төлөвлөлт болон эрүүл амьдралын хэм маягийн эрхэмлэгч та бүхнийг King Tower апартментийн 5-р ээлжийн орон сууцнд урьж байна. Амар тайван амьдрал аян давтагдсан шүү.
Good evening.
Sanbano.
Sanbano. Okay.
Very nice to be here. Many thanks, Jargal.
Thank you. Let's talk about Human Development Index of Mongolia. And not everybody probably in Mongolia knows that we are kind of high Human Development Index country. And what is that? And what is a basic change that are happening in particular for last, say, since we changed the system?
So first, many thanks for inviting UNDP to speak on this topic. And as I sit here and I see your cap that says informing, inspiring and empowering, I think my first thought was I'm in the right place. Because the mission of UNDP, the logo of UNDP is empowering people and changing their lives. So it's the right place to talk about the human development. Back in 1990, UNDP developed the concept, pioneered the concept of human development, and the first time we issued the Human Development Index. The essence of it was to measure the lives, the improvement in the lives of the people, and measuring it beyond what was the norm at that time, the economic progress. Starting with looking out ourselves, what we, the people, want. We want to have decent income, the income that will give us a decent standard of living, the one that we value. Want to have a good health, to live a long, healthy life, and we need to want to be knowledgeable. That are the essence that everyone wants it. So the human development is a concept that puts that interest of the people at the center, the choices, the abilities and opportunities that the people have in their life, individually or collectively, to exercise so that they live a life that they value. And of course, we, the humans, advance, and we also want our voices to be heard. And we also recently collectively agreed that the environment in which we live matters as well, and we value that as well.
So you have created certain metrics which measures those dimensions like health, life expectancy, income, etc.
Yes, that's the Human Development Index that has been calculated since 1990, and that we are issuing analysis of which on a yearly basis we issue globally, regionally, and sometimes at the country level. It measures 3 dimensions of the life, long the life cycle, meaning the access to health, education, and means of living, income. So these are the three elements of the Human Development Index, and indeed it has progressed over the years. So the question that you raise is where Mongolia stands. Over the past 30 years, Mongolia, from 1990 to 2022, Mongolia improved its ranking in the Human Development Index around 26%. It's a significant development. It stands because of the improvement of the expected long life cycle that was increased for around 12.9 years. Life longevity has been increased in Mongolia. The expected years of schooling have increased for around 3.5 years over that period, and 148% income increase over that period. It's a significant improvement. And of course, it follows the trajectory, follows, and it's in line with what has been happening in the world as well. 2021 saw a fall globally in the Human Development Index because of the pandemic, but also because of many other things, but mainly because of the pandemic. Globally, in the world, we expected that before the pandemic happened, that by 2030, the world will move into the very high human development category. Last year, when we calculated the index, we predicted that it will be reversed by years, and this year's report says comes with an even more worrisome prediction that it will be delayed. That milestone will be globally delayed for years, for decades, not for years. And that is an important global perspective. So not only the pace of the progress or in terms of human development globally is slowing, very worrisome, but also the inequalities between the countries and territories is increasing. Now, where Mongolia stands, that's the most important for us. As I've said, 26% of the increase, and Mongolia is in the Asia-Pacific region, a region that has been one of the leading globally in terms of advancement of its human development indexes. The South Asia and East Asia and Pacific, that sub-regions here have advanced their human development for 50% over that same period. So that means that Mongolia is still not at the same level of progress as some of the countries from the surrounding, from the neighborhood. Yes, as in any countries, there were setbacks into the human development, into the index over the pandemic period.
So compared with Asia, we are kind of twice slower.
It could have been at the same par. It's not at the same par, definitely. But we see slight improvements over the last year. That trend is there.
Well, okay. And yet you issue every year annual report of Human Development Index. And this year you have considered the completely new challenge we face as a humankind, artificial intelligence. So what is that about for Mongolia? What are the challenges we face now?
Yes, first about the global messages that why we are looking into this issue as well. On an annual basis, the Human Development Report, the flagship document, looks into the topics that matter for the humanity, for the world. This report was 35th in the history, but it was the second one that looked deeper into the layers of uncertainty that the humanity is facing. And last year it was about the climate change, this year about the artificial intelligence. So what the report was aiming, it was to look how this new era of artificial intelligence is different from what we have seen in terms of the digital transformation before. What are the positive or the negative aspects, how that impacts to the human development. What are the challenges, and what needs to be done for the human development to accelerate, to benefit from the artificial intelligence. So that was the intent. So, and it came up with a number of clear points. First, the point that it is important who produces the artificial intelligence and for what purpose it is produced. So what we wanted to do is to shift the narrative, to shift the question. We see in the public, many are asking the question, when will the artificial intelligence outperform the human mind? The question, the narrative that we think it's important to put is not when our capabilities will be outpaced, but how can artificial intelligence help us advance the human capabilities, human potential and well-being, and thus the human development. So we came with a number of recommendations, very broad but very relevant globally and for Mongolia, I think. First, that the countries have to use the artificial intelligence in a way that complements the economy. In our case, diversifies the economy.
Okay.
Encourages, boost productivity, support the decent work. The other is to guide the innovation with the intent to make sure that accelerates, not by automating, and not the artificial intelligence automates the creative processes, but augments that. And that means that the human agency, the people have to be considered from the design to the deployment of the artificial intelligence. And the third broad recommendation, which is extremely valid, about making sure that the people have right skills and talents to use, and to use the artificial intelligence. And of course, one of the preconditions for that is the ethical, the privacy of the data and ethical use of the artificial intelligence. So the whole intent of this report was to go beyond the narrative, beyond the fear or praise of the artificial intelligence, but to support a vision where the human development can advance, humans can enhance their capabilities with the artificial intelligence.
Let's go into the point that artificial intelligence is giving a chance to diversify economy in our case, in case of Mongolia, which is a long-lasting issue. And until now, we don't have, for example, replaced our huge part of commodity export, for example, and how it can help us to go ahead in diversifying economies.
Yes, and I think that's the one of the most valid questions for Mongolia. And I think when we talk about it, and it's even broader than only diversifying the economy, how to use the artificial intelligence, and that's the pivotal moment where Mongolia is at the moment, to address its key development challenges, which are the climate change that impacts so harshly our country, the mining, extractive industry-based economic model, but also inequalities. So how those three fundamental development challenges of Mongolia can be addressed through artificial intelligence. So, for example, this use of the artificial intelligence to provide the economic opportunities to young people, to the businessmen, to entrepreneurs, access to e-commerce platforms, platforms that provide access to new markets is one important thing. In the case of Mongolia, important is how the herders are equipped to better predict the weather, the droughts, the drought coming, to better use the AI tools for pasture management, so that the sustainability of the products is ensured, not only for the sake of having them, but also certifying that those products are produced in a sustainable manner, and then thus being able to enter the international market. So there are many ways that for the sake of addressing the development challenges of Mongolia can be deployed.
You see, you talk about the human capacity to use the artificial intelligence in their own professional or individual or private life, right? And whether we like or not, artificial intelligence is coming like tomorrow, like a day, you know. It's not asking you, it's coming like sunrise, etc. And then we face challenges which was already existing before this AI comes, which is our digital divide. People who can use internet, cannot use internet, completely divided, not only in Mongolia. And yet we are now facing even new phenomena like artificial intelligence. And people use it whether they like or not, in work, in education, health, entertainment. In case of Mongolia, is particular things that we must pay attention from now on. You have been talking earlier about the talent, about the development, in education. So if there is a particular point where we need to focus or prioritize.
Yes, we, UNDP, we have been very honored, in fact, to work with the government on these issues. Artificial intelligence does not happen overnight. It has been here for quite some time, and it was in making.
It will be there.
Yeah, and it will continue, and it will be even stronger. The pace on how it is evolving is something that is so unusual. We haven't seen in the past. So the pace of how the countries have to adjust and make sure that they are not left behind is extremely important. Now, for that reason, we have been working with the government first to do landscape assessment. What is of how the country is prepared for artificial intelligence? And that assessment indicated to where Mongolia is and came with some produced a number of key recommendations and the key obstacles for Mongolia, or key issues on which the country has to look into. Definitely, it's access, infrastructure throughout. And in the most remote areas, particularly access to everyone, particularly for herders, to people with disabilities, even to women. That is a big issue. Then the digital divide, the digital literacy, the capacity of civil servants, but not only. The digital literacy in general. And then the third element that it pointed to as a needed this assessment was the ethical guidance, the legal framework that will ensure that the AI is applied in an ethical way and with a human in mind.
So we talk about a particular agreement of cooperation with the Mongolian government to understand or to evaluate currently how much we are ready to accept this all challenges, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Is it a contract you made, or it is assistance?
It is just a technical joint work with the Ministry of Digital Development from an expert point of view, to look in how the country stands in the governance, government capacity and infrastructure. It proved that in terms of the infrastructure, Mongolia is doing well, but it's lagging behind in terms of the access to the infrastructure, the capacities, and lacks the legal framework. So that was the analysis that we did, but the analysis was made based on also not only expertise, but also with a lot of consultations with the private sector, with different, on a regional level, different parties as well, but also with a view to contribute to Mongolia's artificial intelligence and big data strategy, which is in making. So the idea was to provide analytical a document basis so that the policy making.
So you made
goes.
this document.
Yes, we have supported the ministry of analyzing what is the current state. We do have that, and then now the strategy is under finalization stage, and I suppose that the government will soon be reviewing it.
Based on this document, there will be certain action plan, right?
And yes, the roadmap for the strategy is there based on
This
it.
readiness assessment is just for Mongolia, or it is a general certain methodology you have been using for other countries?
Yes, thank you for that. This is one methodology approach that UNDP is applying throughout the world, but we are at the very beginning of that. So it's a very timely initiative that we are doing in understanding of the importance of this phenomenon, if you wish to say. And Mongolia is one of the 10 countries so far that we have done that. And we are very lucky that and proud that we have managed to include Mongolia here. That means that there is a broader understanding of the importance and potential of Mongolia. I think in this region is Sri Lanka is the other
Sri
country.
Lanka.
Yes,
Okay.
and the other is around the world.
Okay, just I'm wondering how much we are ready for that, for accepting all this digital world, and how much you have mentioned also about this digital literacy. So in terms of digital literacy, what kind of things can be done in Mongolia using all these other best practices?
Yeah, the report showed that this analysis that we did put Mongolia on the scale of 3 out of 5. Which means that Mongolia is in the systematization stage. The foundations are there, but the way forward is still to be done, and it depends on a number of matters. Digital literacy improvement for sure. Now, the fact that there is different access to education is for sure very obvious, clear in Mongolia. We have a lot of data around that. But the fact that Mongolia lacks around 12,000 ICT professionals is also there.
12,000 ICT professionals, we need more.
Yes, that is one of the assessments that we hear. Now, the question is, what you ask how the other countries are doing in that respect. Vietnam, for example, they introduced they are introducing the artificial intelligence as part of all levels of education. So putting the AI into the curricula, into the universities, that
Vietnam does.
Yes, they have done it. So it's one of the recommendations that we are coming is making sure that the artificial intelligence becomes part of the educational
We haven't done
curricula.
anything yet.
I think that the Ministry of Education, I'm sure that they are looking into it, and but this is definitely something that is a prerequisite.
How come with this 12,000 IT professionals lagging?
Well, to be honest, I think we need to look into the documents analysis around that, but that does not mean that that is the only aspect of it.
Yes,
ICT skills is one aspect of one skill that artificial intelligence is demanding.
Yes.
There are linguistic people, data processors, designers, different profiles of professions will be needed for the artificial intelligence. So the question is how Mongolia can develop an ecosystem that will incentivize the people, the young generation, to take that type of profiles, that will embed it into the universities in PhD or fellowship programs, and then build this a strong talent, digital nomad pool of Mongolia, and turn the population into a regionally strong force.
There is one challenge here. Artificial intelligence now mostly based today in the big languages, in particular English. Yet for Mongolia to use by ordinary people, they need to be in Mongolian too. And there is some small language programs, including Mongolian, where they recognize Mongolian languages. So, and on one side, everything you do is for mostly in English for big audience. On the other side, we need for smaller audience that need how to combine it, because if we have a very good professionals who can do that in big language, they can be easily kind of leave the country in a way. There is small challenge already. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that many countries are facing that, particularly countries with a smaller population are facing the same challenge or the unique population. So the question is how to preserve the uniqueness, the cultural heritage that we have, while taking the same pace or outpacing the globally the developments. I think Mongolia already has, as you mentioned, we have some companies that already are doing the Mongolian language-based cultural, and it's very
small
great.
language models.
Yes, it's a very important positive. Even the kind of a voice recognition in platforms tools they are developing. So that is a extremely positive development that needs to be supported further. And it's a matter of a priority of extremely important. But at the same time, extremely important is, and that is something that the report, the analysis that we did indicated, to make sure that the big data are compatible and that they can be used, they can be processed and used by the artificial intelligence. And there is a scope to work on that as well.
Compared with large language models, the small language models have a less chance to create a big data that would be kind of comparable with the large one. So with a small population, what is the challenges we will face?
But therefore, I think that the positive, the experiences, that the positive examples that Mongolia has of a private sector keen and engaging on that topic is being supported. That is one side of it. But what I'm trying to say is also that there is already, even for the data that exists in Mongolia and that can be processed, there is a problem with the compatibility of the data, the systems, how the public data and private data sometimes are difficult to process. So I think this is one of the messages that we are sending with that analysis, that attention has to be made for that.
It's being considered properly.
We do hope that it will be acted.
You have mentioned about when we talk about the readiness, assessment of readiness of Mongolia for this digital transformation. We talked briefly about the ethical guidance. What is that? And what do you mean under that?
Well, that means principles of transparency, accountability, fairness, and that people being at the heart of developing any artificial intelligence and their interest being centered. And that, to be more specific, means, for example, data privacy. I don't want my data to go around. And I'm sure that is everyone like that. That is one of the principles, concerns.
Yes, big concern.
The other is digital behavior.
Yes.
How, and particularly that is important for young people that can fall under influence, or people in different vulnerable situations.
That's what's happening now, in a way.
In the global trend.
Kind of the casino kind of play, and then sales of not good products online, etc. And more than that, the defaming, right? Defamation of people, or just using very harsh words towards each other. It's morally destroying, in particular, young people. In that regard, the social media impact we already seen that very seriously. And it is coming with artificial intelligence together now. So what would be the challenges in terms of this ethical guidance?
Yeah, so that is definitely global trend, and it happens that many countries are taking different ways of it. You pointed to one way that Mongolia did just recently. Also, and we will be looking into what the strategy will be saying and what the government takes further. But then one important part when we talk about the ethical and inclusive governance is about how the artificial intelligence serves and respects the social norms, social identity of a society. And that is particularly important also for countries with a smaller population as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so whether it reflects what we Mongolians are and the interests of us, that is extremely important. So that means ethical, that means governance, making sure that the artificial intelligence reflects the interests of the country and of the people.
Well, my final question about e-government development index, which your organization, UNDP, had been issuing since 2002 or so, many years, and where Mongolia is in that index, how are we doing?
Mongolia is well recognized, in fact, in terms of improving its position in e-governance. I think it stands 46 out of 97.
Yeah.
It improved in the e-governance index. It improved 11 steps when it comes to artificial intelligence readiness globally as well. So, and then the main reason for that, or the background for that, comes from the e-Mongolia platform. The fact that we have the platform that launched only a few years ago, now it covers 1.4 thousand services, serves 86% of the population. It's powered by a broadband internet access throughout the country, despite the challenges, made Mongolia move.
This one compared with other regional countries, where are we now? I think China, for example, is probably very much ahead.
Well, I think, I cannot quote you immediately the standings, the comparison. But I think the challenge here is, or the question here is, to look really what matters now and why, how we use it, for what.
I see.
So I think we are looking at it more from that perspective. For a country, for a specific context, what would the best contribution and where the most is needed this technological power to apply it. And that, in the case of Mongolia, is definitely moving beyond the current economic model of extractive industries, helping address the climate change, helping deal with the inequalities that are persistent and the poverty that is still high, and digital, urban-rural divide. These are the core challenges. How artificial intelligence can be deployed for that. It's important.
Okay, we have been addressing issues mostly down the road. In the future, the country, the society have to discuss and decide and to have our life accordingly arranged, because these are all new things, and yet we have not completed the digital transition, yet we are now facing completely new factor like human artificial intelligence. So thank you very much for coming and sharing your thoughts, and I think not only for the government but for ordinary people, civil society, we need to really get ourselves ready. Otherwise, it is coming anyway, very strong way. So thank you so much.
Many thanks. Can I say something? It's about innovation and how you stand on the foot and you take best use of the situation. And I think that Mongolia has a long history of innovating, moving forward, finding the ways how into a specific context the country moves. Okay. So I'm very confident that Mongolia will find its way out.
Let it be. Thank you. За хүн төлөөлөгчтэй өнөөдөр бид ингээд өдөр болгон анхаарлаа өгдөг тэгсэн мөртлөө хэрэглээд байгаа, ороод байгаа энэ цахим болж байгаа ертөнц энэ дотор цахим хүн бий болчиход, цахим оюун ухаан бий болчиход бид нарыг удирдах эхлэх гэж байгаа. Эсвэл бид нар тэднийг яаж ашиглах тухай ийм чухал ярианы үед бид энэ нүүбийн хөгжлийн хөтөлбөрийн 2025 оны програм байгаа. Хиймэл оюуны эрендэх хүмүүсийн сонголт ба боломжууд гэсэн нэртэй ийм чухал тайлан гарсан байгаа. Өөрөө ирэхгүй анхаарал татсан. Тэгээд би энэ тайланг гаргасан энэ байгууллагын Монгол дахь суурин төлөөлөгч энэ эмэгтэй Димовскатай ярилцлаа.
Сэлгэр уужим орон зай, хараа баясгах үзэмжид харууц, цэвэр агаар, тав тухтай орчин, тансаг, давтагдшгүй өнгө төрх, таныг илэрхийлэх төгс хийцлэлтэй King Tower, тав дугаар элчийн орон сууцны загварын байранда та бүхнийг урьж байна. King Tower Apartment